Let's talk about some activity ratios, and we'll start with inventory turnover. When you're analyzing inventory, you really have two conflicting goals. You don't want too much inventory on hand just laying around the place, but you also don't want too little, which means you can't meet the needs of your customers. So this metric, inventory turns, is very commonly used by companies that do carry inventory. It's telling you really how many times you turn your inventory over and sell it through within a given period of time. So we're taking a number from the income statement, COGS, cost of goods sold, and a number from the current assets section of the balance sheet, inventory. So really at the essence, what we're comparing is the inventory that you've sold. That's what cost of goods sold is. It's inventory that you sold. And you're comparing that to the inventory that you didn't sell. It's still sitting in inventory. As a benchmark number for inventory turns, it would really depend on the industry. If you're in the food manufacturing industry, maybe you'd want a higher number of turns, like maybe 12 times a year, which means that you're selling your inventory every month. If you didn't, think about it, food, if you're making a food product, it's perishable, so you don't want it just sitting around to spoil and have to be thrown away. On the other hand, we work with some heavy equipment distributors that turn their inventory over, things like excavators and backhoes, about 3 times a year or every 4 months. Regardless of the industry you're in, if you carry inventory, the ratio is very relevant to you. Another activity ratio that we can talk about is total asset turnover. And this indicates how you're working the assets of the business to generate sales. And it gives you a sense, too, for the asset intensity of the business. It's calculated by taking your net sales divided by your total assets. If you had an asset turnover ratio of 2, for example, it would mean that you're generating $2 of sales for every dollar of assets. And if the number is too low relatively, compared to, say, other companies in your industry, it could mean that you have too many unused or underutilized assets in place. Maybe you have too much accounts receivable that's not being collected. Because remember, we're looking at total assets, which include not only plants and equipment, but accounts receivable. Even too much cash sitting around not working for you could be a drag on this metric because it's increasing the denominator. You could drive this unreasonably high, on the other hand, by doing things like not having enough assets in place, like factories, plants, equipment, that would not effectively or efficiently support your sales. And maybe you're using those assets too much, they're wearing down, you have to maintain them in the future unexpectedly, or there's some replacement costs that come along, as we talked about in the ROA example earlier. Maybe, again, if you think about what's included in assets, you're not offering enough credit terms to customers in your accounts receivable asset, while low is actually driving away customers because they would buy more if you would extend credit to them. And maybe as well, you could have a high asset turnover when in fact what it means you don't have enough cash in your assets in the hopper for a rainy day. So again, these are examples of really interpreting and taking some time to understand what's behind these numbers, what's driving them.